but they have a tall order.
Vitality reminding us that they've earned their spot at Worlds.
Misfits show they may be out of playoffs, but they are still very much here to play.
SK Gaming will make playoffs in their first split, and they prove that they belong amongst the best teams.
Fnatic came to dominate.
Upset somehow got the penta!
The perfect ingredients for how to make this team work.
OG have cut down Fnatic.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like, and it comes from Europe.
Yesterday we saw the teams return to the Rift, and today we will give you the main takeaways and try to answer the question on everyone's mind, we think, where is Yuumi? Hello everyone and welcome to the LEC studio. My name is Sjokz and I'm joined here by Vedius and Froskurinn. This is what peak casters look like, and they come from Europe. Well, kind of, some came from somewhere else and then came to Europe, but you know what we mean.
Well, still counts.
Yes. No, it's a good way to start. No?
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. We had some awesome League of Legends yesterday. I was very happy to see our top team still looking rather top teamish.
Yeah.
And we saw some upsets. I mean, Misfits won a game.
Is that an upset? Let's take a look at the standings. As you said, maybe everything going as expected and not too big of surprises coming out of day one. Fnatic, G2, Misfits, Origin, and Schalke winning. Although you call Misfits winning over Rogue an upset, why is that?
Wow, I do. It's obviously a bit of tongue-in-cheek. I think Misfits showed a good performance yesterday. However, I still think that there's a little bit of proving yet to be done, considering so far they're only winning in the same ways that they won last split, and clearly that wasn't enough to secure them playoffs.
I just want like a snapshot, like thanks to alphabetical order, Fnatic back on top.
So, yeah, Frosk, Fnatic back on top. This is, of course, alphabetic, but who do you consider the best teams in the league?
I think you got 3 right now, and they're kind of good for different reasons. I feel like G2, because they're G2. Origin, they have a really interesting read on the meta right now. I really love their draft priority. We'll get more into that later on throughout the day when we see them. And then Fnatic actually feel like they found development over the course of the offseason. It feels like Broxah and Nemesis are working much better, and they look evolved. So I like the 3 different looks that we're getting from our top 3 right now.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as we saw in spring so far. So when we have 5 winners, we also have 5 teams that didn't win on day one. But who was the biggest disappointment coming out of that?
I like how you avoided the word losers.
Losers. I actively did it. I don't know why. Losers. Who's the most
I think we can agree that it was Vitality.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, given the expectations that they went to China, they scrimmed with RNG, they scrimmed with a lot of the LPL teams. They said that they were very aware of their mistakes from last split. They come into their first game and they look like the exact same team. Is a little bit worrying moving forward.
And I think the key word there is expectations. You know, unfortunately, Vitality have such high expectations. They represented Europe at Worlds just last year, so we expect them to be contenders. And what we saw yesterday wasn't about being contenders, and that's why we're so hard.
Yeah, is it also about the fact that you can say it was only 1 game in a split, but for Vitality, we do look at it in the context of their development since their rookie breakout year last year, right? And is that why it's more concerning than that we're being very hard on them, so to say?
Well, I think that for Vitality, they openly set very lofty goals. It was Yamato that said, this year we win a title. This is the year that they break out amongst the world. And while they started off at a low point and then kind of rose up through the ranks, we've only seen them kind of steady out. And we're still waiting to see this rise continue for Vitality, and because it hasn't, we are overly critical and we want to see more.
I mean, you would overlook Vitality's lack of consistency because they would have incredible highs, like when the momentum, when the energy was behind them, and right now you don't have the consistency and you're not getting the highs across the team. Cabo still looks great, but Attila and Jacktroll look very lost.
Of course, it's still only 1 game. We're obviously being very critical after a single performance against a team that finished 2nd in last split, which is why I think today's game against Splice will be a better indicator of what Vitality we're going to see this
I agree. We will see, of course, at the top of the table, G2 Esports, the best team in the world. They also got the win yesterday, and for an in-depth breakdown of how they are doing, Quickshot is standing by on the floor.
well, they're still winning games and they're still undefeated.
This is the kind of hard-hitting journalism we have quick shot
Great
in our
breakdown.
ranks for.
Really
I
good
love
analysis,
that
I felt.
in-depth, long-form meeting.
Right, I think we've covered G2.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, and for the viewers at home as well, it isn't easy to cover a team that, you know,
Wins
keeps
all the
winning.
time?
Wins all
Because, yeah, it wins all the time and does so incredibly well. So we'll get creative in the next couple of weeks if they keep doing just that. Yesterday, we also got a look at the LEC meta, or summer meta, and Medic is going to break down exactly what we saw and what we may expect.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Now, after one day's play in the LEC, I took a look at our games in the league here compared to our rivals around the world. First off, let's talk about game length. Yesterday, we kicked off with the fastest game as G2 took down Splice, and then rounded out with actually the longest game when Sjokz finally defeated XL in just over 40 minutes of action, leaving the LEC average game time at about 30 minutes and 15 seconds. Now, this is a full minute faster than the LCS and a full 5 minutes faster than the LCK, meaning that we actually have some of the most exciting League of Legends here in Europe. If we take out the slogfest between Sjokz and XL, our game time drops to about 27 minutes and 34 seconds. As a further note, no team has had a lead at 20 minutes and then gone on to lose the game, meaning that our teams are getting ahead and then snowballing that advantage very quickly. So our games are fast, but are they as exciting as we hope? Well, as a play-by-play caster, all I really care about is kills. European games clocked in a kill every 72 seconds, averaging about 24 kills every game. We are the second bloodiest league, lagging only behind the LPL, who, as we all know, are some of the most bloodthirsty players in the world. Now, lots of kills also means lots of deaths, and Vedius has the dubious honor of sitting atop the isolated death leaderboard with 3 ISO deaths on day 1 alone. Finally, let's talk about picks and bans. There are 6 champions sitting at 100% presence after day 1, meaning they've been picked or banned in every single game. Yuumi has yet to see the light of Summoner's Rift, being banned 5 out of 5 times, and alongside her, Jace, Aatrox, Sivir, Sylas, and Aurelia have been present in some capacity, whether picked or banned 100% of the time. Sitting just behind them is the Spider Queen, Elise. She's been picked 3 times and banned once with a 100% win rate on day 1. Now that's it for me. Let's hear about what picks our analysts are interested in coming into day 2.
Thank you very much.
All I have to say is I played Sivir Yuumi against a volley bear yesterday. Hard counter, because Yuumi throws out the ultimate and he just flips her away.
Oh, yeah. Interestingly enough, we probably won't see. I mean, who knows?
Just throwing out tips.
Yeah, it's going to be Froskurinn's golden tip if that does happen.
I've been trying to push Noctem for a while. They're not that keen to pick up on our ideas for us.
Was there anything that caught you off guard about the picks that we saw on day 1 for you?
Well, I think I was surprised that we saw so much ban priority on Yuumi. I thought that she would get through the draft a couple of times, but it seems that no team wants to play around her or with her.
She's giga broken.
Yeah, I know. She's pretty OP. But also, I think Elise was surprising. It feels like a very European classic. It feels like Jankos was a big player of it, not only at MSI, but last split. And it feels like it's becoming more and more in the scene right now.
Yeah, and a big question on a lot of people's minds is why do teams keep picking Azir, right? Because it's not been very successful here or in the LCS even. So why is it? And why do you think it is a good or a bad choice by the teams?
So I do think Azir is one of those champions where he's very strong at around 2 and 3 items, which means that he typically takes a little bit longer to scale up. But he also does a great job of controlling a lot of what currently exists in the meta. He's relatively safe. He does well into the likes of Sylas, Aurelia, and even Camille. And I think that what teams are struggling to do right now is know how to not fight rather than look for constant fight.
I also think there's an issue where if you have the likes of Elise and Sejuani that are running around, Azir needs to pick between taking the cleanse and the TP. And we've had a couple of Azir players say that I can get through the lane with the TP. I don't need to respect with the cleanse. And then they're unfortunately proven wrong or challenged on that. And so I still think that Azir can work, but it's about finding the instances about where you pick your moments in the game.
Yeah, no doubt in my mind that we're going to see it again today. Secondly, Rumble, quite the surprise to me at least. Not something we see be so prevalent, but in EU, they really seem to love that pick nowadays.
Yeah, we actually heard a lot about it in the mid lane in Challenger players, but we're actually seeing it all the time in top. And having spoken to some of the pros, they explain that it's considered a very safe pick right now in the current meta. It does well into a lot of top laners, especially the likes of Jace. But on top of that, it has a very powerful mid-game spike. And because of how snowbally the games are right now, many teams in Europe say that he reaches strongest point when the game is really at its prime and when it's at its most impactful. So I expect to see a lot more Rumble here in Europe.
We're not just crazy. It has been played in mid lane. It was actually played today by the LPL in mid lane.
Did it win?
No.
Didn't win. We'll see how it fares today on the Rift here in the LEC. Now, we also saw Nukeduck adding yet another champion to his champion Ocean, in this case Camille. Frosk, Camille mid, how does it work? Break it down.
Yeah, so Camille mid also then played in the LPL today, and it was popping off. Now, Nukeduck didn't have the same big impact, but he did win with that champion, and the first thing that I want people to understand is the composition that it was played with. Now, Camille offers several tools to her teams piloting her. She has scaling, hard engage, and pick. By playing her in the mid position as opposed to top or jungle, teams can make the most out of her mobility by playing both sides of the river and also getting more gold from the lane phase so she can be a true threat later on. There's also then the element of matchup. Camille excels in melee matchups, using her hook shot to decide fights on her terms, but current top lane is overrun by ranged champions like the Nars, the Kinnons, the Jaces, and even the Nikos that can shove her out. Now, Nukeduck did face Jizuke's Azir yesterday, not the most fun matchup, but he did it in an interesting way by specking Camille with 3 points in W before maxing E and taking the Comet Keystone. Now, this ability combination helped Camille to wave clear before Tiamat, kept her healthy via the W sustain, and chipped away at Azir in multiple trades, using her in a poke-like fashion. In tandem with Cold Sejuani, Camille also brought an oppressive 2v2 mid-jungle that had the CC and damage to win skirmishes and control the river. Now, I expect to see Camille continue to pop up, especially when teams can't get their hands on champions like Aurelia, but I don't think that she's overpowered. I think that she's the flavor of the month, and she's very dependent on what composition and what matchups you're running her into.
Can we expect it in the LEC meta to see it more?
I think very much in what Frosk was saying. I think it's very dependent on certain compositions. I think that Sejuani pick is also very important, but depending on what other comps people come up with, I wouldn't be surprised to see it depending on the situation.
Yeah, definitely a cool champion to see in the mid lane, and if you do want to see Camille taking over the mid lane through the eyes of the players, you can also get ProView right now over at riot.com/ProView. Now, we talked about a lot of champions, but one champion we have not seen yet is Yuumi. So Medic, he went out looking for the magical cat.
Where on earth is that cat? Yuumi! Yuumi, where are you? Where on earth has she gone?
I'm looking for a fishy fish for my dishy dish.
What are you doing down here? We have to get into bot lane.
Well, this is embarrassing.
Yes, it is embarrassing. I'm going to be laning right now.
Listen, if you don't go away, I will throw a book at you.
That's uncalled for.
No! No!
Come on, out you come.
I fits, I sit.
Come on, get on my back. Get on my back. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Come on, Yuumi.
To the fish.
To the fish.
To the fish.
Let's go.
To the fish.
Yeah. Frosk laughed so hard she needed to get her headset readjusted.
Fishy fish from my dishy dish.
What? How? That wasn't you, obviously.
No. I mean, those are just quotes from Yuumi.
Cadius?
That was Yuumi. What are you talking about?
All
I heard were Yuumi quotes in there, and I heard a great breakdown of Yuumi, and clearly Yuumi is not as excited to get onto the Rift as everyone else is right now.
Exactly. Well, we'll see if we see more Yuumi today. Let's take a look at the schedule today. Today. That's when we're playing. XL versus Rogue is up first and also next. Yeah, looking for their first win, and I'm actually quite excited for that matchup, all jokes aside, because I don't think we've seen everything we expected out of the new configured rosters, as happens often on a day one.
I mean, I know we're opening with XL, but we also got some other bangers later on, like the fact that it's Splice versus Vitality, Origin versus G2. It feels like we got a really stacked schedule for our opening week, and today in particular.
I agree.
Where's the biggest upset going to come from, Vedius?
Ooh, I'm trying to recall my predictions for today. It depends on your
predictions.
I like to fall behind for a more dramatic comeback. That's what I like to do.
Let's pull up the predictions, and then we can see exactly what you voted for.
So let's have a look. Where am I at? That one.
Ooh, everyone jumped the Rogue train, except for the fans. That's because of the Reddit guy.
It was in bold.
Is that? Oh, StatsBot went for Misfits. I see. So they're taking a creative choice at the beginning of the split.
I thought that was a hard one to predict, I have to say.
I thought you had gone Vitality.
What? No, I'm off that train.
Oh, you're abandoning that train?
Unfortunately, Yamato needs to promise me a lot of things before I get back onto the Vitality train.
What's that Origin prediction at the end of the day?
Okay, So here's the thing. G2 is the easy prediction. I went 5-0 yesterday. I'm looking at the 10-0 today, and if I find the upset, that's how I make my stake.
That's very early in the season. You're deciding to
take a high roller.
The actual analysis is I think that Origen have a really updated read on the meta right now. I thought their composition, especially with that Camille mid, was super cool. I think G2 still playing a bit of the old school MSI, and so I'm hoping that Origen can take their sucker punch right now, find a cool comp, maybe catch G2 off guard. That said, G2 still real terrifying.
Yes, they are. Also, I do want to give a shout out to all you guys and girls at home, the fans who voted. You've been voting massively, a lot more than in summer and in last spring, in spring and in last summer. Rather, so continue to do that. Hit up your predictions at LOL Esports before each day of games. Now, to close out the day today, we will have the rematch of the spring finals. Origen will get another shot at the LEC champions.
What we're gonna do is gonna shock the world.
And Fake has been able to join the fray. The minion wave is getting obliterated. Oh, massive! Faker turns around.
When we're down in a series, like against SKT, we're 1-2 down, and you hear the crowd still cheer for us, it actually makes a difference, you know. When you hear the crowd, then you just have to fight till the end.
Caps and Wonder are on the Nexus. They will not go quietly. Wonder versus Game 5. That's a dunk from Wonder. Death from below for the double, for the ace, for the Baron and the base.
Right here, if you can find the QE. Nice juke by Cap. They find that first stun. They find some damage, but Ignite means he will get the solo kill in the 1v2.
Honestly, this is like the OG series.
Exactly. G2 slaughtering Team Liquid.
When we lost to G2, I mostly felt anger. We stayed as a team to watch G2 lift the cup, and you know, it gives you a lot of fuel and a lot of motivation.
A little bit of me was like happy for them, but I think a bigger part of myself was just like, damn, that could have been me.
Now with G2 winning MSI, it's been a big shock for me because I kind of gave up on winning internationally. Korea had been always winning and always being the best region. Seeing G2 win the final and in the manner that they did just make me realize I haven't figured out half of what I could be figuring out. It just gave me that extra motivation, that extra push to get better.
We definitely have not shown our full potential yet. We want to be the team that doesn't just 3-0 Liquid, it wants to be the team that 3-0s IG.
When it comes to summer split, I don't know how strong we will start out. We, of course, played MSI on a completely different patch. For sure, OG was not like a weak team last split, so if there's any team to contest us, it's most likely going to be OG, right? But still, I think 18-0 split should be possible.
Honestly, at this point, it's just like a mouse trying to catch up to a lion.
If there's any time for them to beat us, it's right now.
We showcase that we can be one of the teams at the top. That is not enough for us. We are here to challenge the best, and we want to become the champions.
Wow. I wonder, going for that 2015 Fnatic 18-0, we haven't seen it since. May I just give a shout out also to our video team. That video is so awesome.
The Pike part is so hype.
It's great. Yeah, Frosk, we already heard why you think Origen has a big chance in this one. Vedi, you don't agree, so tell me why is G2 going to win?
All the analysis he needs is because they're G2.
Yeah, a bit more, please.
So I think one of the big advantages that G2 always has is that their mid and top are very, very powerful. But I think one of the biggest things that we learned from MSI is how much more in tune Jankos feels to be with the rest of his team. And what I saw yesterday was that G2 found their victories largely through Jankos applying pressure and utilizing where he had advantages on the map. Whereas what I felt for Origen was that they were punishing the mistakes that Vitality often made. And I think both playstyles can work. Both were fast in how they won their games. And I think both teams are very good. But when it comes to proactive versus trying to punish mistakes, this team doesn't make many mistakes.
Yeah, we'll see. I also found it interesting that they said Origen will probably be the team that will be the one to step up to challenges, maybe in another final. What do you think of that statement?
I mean, you have to give respect to the second best team. They went to the final. Yeah, it didn't look great, but Origen did manage to take down G2 in the regular split.
Yeah.
I actually found Mithy's quote probably the most impactful because can you imagine playing for that long? And then it kind of felt like the Western world was almost brainwashed into this idea where you guys will never win. You never have a chance. And to finally have that pulled off, you start to see unlocked potential of not just Europe, but like every single region. It worked for China when they took down MSI and Worlds, and now I'm ready for Europe to do the same thing.
Me too. Also very ready for Nuke Dog versus Caps round. I don't know how much, but yeah, we'll see. That is at the end of the day. Yesterday we had 5 games, and as always, Twitter gets all up in arms and sends out their hot takes. But our first hot take comes from G2 themselves, as they showed up in style yesterday. Versace gowns. They're really expensive, okay? I looked it up yesterday.
They're stylish too.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The jury's out.
You just put a little like just logo on the bottom of that. Wonder looks like he's straight out of a magazine. He's like,
yeah, I have to say, a bit of blue steel going on. Love it, G2. I wonder what they're, maybe some Gucci. We'll see. Another hot take came from @ArthurFleck0801. Why did I read that? Vitality has so much potential, but it has been going downhill without any sight of improvements. The big question should be asked of the Mowgli acquisition.
I wasn't aware Mowgli was playing bot lane. Jokes aside, yeah, Mowgli has a very different style. He's kind of the newest iteration, so I think that a lot of people will kind of shift their focus onto Mowgli. Like, well, Kikis was here. It was so much better. But the fact of the matter is I don't feel it. It's the jungler who's underperforming. Yeah, you can look at all individual members of Vitality, and they all kind of had their glaring moments. But I think it's still about Attila and Jacktroll, you know, finding that confidence and finding that synergy that they had at the beginning of spring.
Do you think it's too far, this quote, or what do you think?
I think that Mowgli still has room for improvement. I think communication seems to be the biggest breakpoint right now between him and the rest of his team around where he can be aggressive and how he's working with his team in order to supplement that kind of aggression. But I agree with Frosk. I think that right now the bot lane is a bigger issue for this team, and I'm hoping that they can shake things up coming into today's game.
All right, next hot take comes from @CFX. CFXG Zo. Oh my gosh, I need my glasses. Misfits, they haven't shown anything convincing yet. They literally did the exact same thing they did at the start of spring. A lot to prove still.
How dare my team win?
Why do they
How
win?
dare they do it in a convincing fashion? I'm furious. Girl looked great on Nautilus.
It is the same way that they were winning last week.
Yeah, why is that an issue?
Good enough to get them to playoffs. We've already seen this.
Yes, but the thing here is,
wait.
Spring, they couldn't even win in any way, not even through the way that they liked winning before.
Sure.
So should we then not just applaud them for having a win in the first place in the first game?
I mean, the thing is, they got wins at the beginning of last split, right? I need to see a greater depth of style from this team rather than get Hansama a winning matchup and win through Hansama. I need to see the return of 2015 Febiven. I need to see the GOAT Soaz return to peak performance if I'm to be convinced that this Misfits is a real chance.
That does sound good. That does sound good.
Yeah, I'm all aboard that.
We're all aboard. Let's see how Misfits do today versus Fnatic. That will be very, very interesting. And next up, Cloud9 tweeted, the teams who won have a 100% win rate in summer.
That is the type of logic that I expect from an LCS team.
Yes, definitely. They have a clear read on the league.
Yeah, it seems like Cloud9, one step ahead of the rest of us.
As always, they are, except for when they play EU at an international tournament. For now, let's move on to our first game of the day, XL versus Rogue. 2 teams that made some key changes before the split. They unfortunately lost their games yesterday, both XL and Rogue, but I do want to look at the positive because there were a lot of changes on either side. And I know that you guys found the changes in XL quite controversial. So what did you take away from their first game yesterday?
So I think, to me, it kind of went almost as expected. The biggest surprise was how well Expect performed. Like, just taking this dive as an example, outplaying this was exceptional. And later on, it looks like he gets caught out. He finds another miraculous escape. I felt like the top laner for XL was having a monstrous game. And if he continues to have these performances, I have a lot more faith in this XL role.
And it was so important that Expect had to show up because he needed to buy time for his team to allow Hjarnan, kind of the other big key performer on this roster, to scale up on that Jinx. He bought them enough time, and for about, I'm going to say 75% of the game, it actually looked like it was going to be an XL victory. It thought that they had the late game Jinx and they're going to be able to walk through towards the Nexus.
What about Hjarnan's first performance? I know a lot of people were, had a lot of criticism of his performance.
So ultimately, I think for a lot of the game, he played very well. I felt like his laning was very solid and reliable, pretty much what I think we expected. But then he was also the player that got caught out by the Cocoon. He was the player that died and ultimately cost his team the game, right? And how much weight you want to put on that is up to the individual. But I'm not too concerned as of yet. I think the laning phase aspect is the biggest part. And we still haven't even seen, arguably, the biggest change in that they still have Mickey in the scenes waiting to come into the mid lane behind Special. So I think that there's still a lot of room for this team. And I think that there is a surprising amount of development that can come from this roster.
Okay, let's see how they do. But for more on their opponent's Rogue, let's hear from Laure and their new mid laner.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Laure here, and I was joined by Larssen before his game today. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm so glad to see you back here. I think the last time I saw you was at EU Masters last year. And yesterday, you had to play your first game against a team composed of experienced players when you guys are a rookie team, if I may say. So how was it?
I mean, I don't really think about the enemy team. Yeah, like if they're experienced, doesn't matter because, I mean, it's just focus on our own gameplay, right? And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And despite the results, we saw some promising moves from you. So can you tell me more about the synergy between you and Inspired?
I mean, me and my angler Inspired, I think we think of the game very similarly. And we're both very young, so I think we understand each other very well. So, yeah.
That's awesome to hear. And as I said, you were here last year with H2K. So what do you think about the league since the last time you were here in August?
I mean, I think the league has gotten a lot better. Before I mean, last year there were a lot of weak teams. I feel like now there's barely any weak teams. So, I mean, I think the league has gone stronger for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and what about Rogue in this setup with all of these strong teams? How do you feel?
I mean, I feel good so far. I feel confident in our gameplay. I don't feel like any team is unbeatable besides maybe G2, who is quite good, obviously.
So confident about playing against XL today?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, in my head, we are clear favorites. I think we are a way better team. So I hope we can show it today. Not like yesterday. I think we didn't show really how good we are yesterday, but it can happen, right? So I just want to bounce back today and get the first win.
Well, I wish you very good luck on that. Thank you very much, Larssen, for joining me. Now back to you, Sjokz.
I like it. He's confident, he's cool, calm, and collected. He thinks they can beat everyone, and he definitely thinks they're much better than XL. What do we make of that?
I think that's pretty confident words. I think that the insight that we got from Upset last night on PGL painted a clear picture of how the game went. It felt like they didn't properly communicate with their bot lane and play around them to prevent them from getting shut down as hard as they did against Misfits. But clearly Rogue believes that those communication issues were a one-off thing, could be first time on stage, could have been nerves, and that they're looking to showcase something better today.
You were very hyped about Larssen, so how do you think he did yesterday?
I think he had a great start to the split, but I also think that I was surprised by how well he worked with his jungler. I was expecting this young rookie to be much more about playing by himself, being much more of a controlled player, not really looking for those kills, but it felt like that Inspired was about trying to get him ahead and kind of make him one of the primary carries of the game.
And again, it's about carrying over that synergy that they had in the Polish League now into the LEC. Now, the thing about Inspired and Larssen is they can have their highs, but I like to think of them as very stable players. They work well around pressure, but I don't see them as kind of the true big carries. It feels like it's still, at least for me, on Vander as like the primary playmaker to really make those superhero plays, and then Larssen and Inspire just know exactly what they need to do and rip teams apart in team fights. So I need to see Rogue's bot lane have a better performance, get Vander a position where he feels confident to make the engage tools, and then just have Larssen and Inspire do cleanup duty.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think it's such an interesting bot lane matchup, right? Because you have a lot of players there that have been around the block, right? Who have had a chance to prove themselves in the past, have had certain high highs, but not always exactly where they wanted to be. And they both had a really bad day one. I was talking to Woolite in the makeup room, and he said it just sucked. We got completely shut down, and there I came back. I couldn't even farm. There was nothing I could do. So how much stock are we putting into that performance yesterday?
I mean, the unfortunate reality is that Woolite and Hjarnan come back to the LEC, and all of the LEC bot lanes got huge upgrades over spring. Like what used to just be the reckless, hilly, like absolute domination now has so many good ADCs, incredible support talent, and so it's kind of like, welcome back. The competition got much stiffer, so come ready to battle.
All right, let's see how it plays out. It is time for another day packed with action in the LEC Summer Split. Let's hit the Rift.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. Good afternoon, everybody.